everyone. Today I'm here to assure you that assurance is easy. I'll be quickly introducing you to what assurance is, the guidance and resources that the New Zealand government provides, and what this looks like in terms of actual hands-on assurance activities and what it may mean for all of you. Quick introduction, my name's James. I'm a lead security consultant at Quantum Security Services, a Bastion Security Group company. And my day-to-day involves security consulting and conducting these assurance activities for New Zealand government organisations. So what is assurance? I'll quickly skim over the New Zealand government's definition that has been slightly modified to better suit a focus on information security. So assurance is an independent and objective assessment of risk that provides credible information to support decision-making. So what are the key parts of that? An independent and objective assessment of risk. We're looking for an unbiased view of how much risk an organisation is holding and an unbiased view of what they're actually doing versus what we think they're doing. And secondly, we want to obtain credible and quality information to support decision-making for these organisations. Good assurance provides the information that helps these organisations make better decisions, which results in better outcomes, better use of resources, and improved resiliency as they understand their risk landscape. This is a very broad definition, so lucky for us, New Zealand government has provided some resources, of which I'll be going over 3 specific ones. The first one is the All of Government Information and Communication Technology Operations Assurance Framework, but that's a lot of words, so let's break that down one by one. All of Government, this is a term used to describe all New Zealand government agencies and some Crown entities. Information and Communication Technology, referring to any technology used to communicate and process digital information. Operations assurance, essentially assurance or confidence in understanding how we do things on a day-to-day basis. Framework, structure. Putting it all back together, this is just guidance on how to do assurance over an organisation's day-to-day ICT operations. This is useful for if you're looking to implement your own organisation's organisation-wide assurance framework. The next 2 resources I'll be going over, provided by the New Zealand government, support good assurance and good information security. So firstly, we have the protective security requirements, the PSR. These are just very high-level requirements for organisations to follow for managing governance, personnel or people, physical and information security. Here's an example PSR requirement. InfoSec 1, understand what you need to protect. As you can see, it's very high level, but it does provide the good direction to organisations for what they should be doing. We then have the New Zealand Information Security Manual, or the NZISM. This is a much more detailed document that includes requirements and recommendations for different technologies to secure information systems. For example, this is an example control. This is recommending the use of TLS 1.3 and discouraging the use of SSL for encryption in transit. Cool, so I've gone over 3 of the frameworks, but what do assurance activities look like day to day? And how do we provide reasonable assurance to an organisation that their ICT systems are fit for purpose in terms of security? Enter the certification and accreditation process. This was mentioned earlier in Jeremy's talk today, but what is this? This is a fundamental governance and assurance process for IT systems, which is defined in the NZISM. There are different implementations from government agency to government agency as it only is defined at a high level, so I'll be covering the key themes across all of them. But first, let's break this down a little bit more. Certification is the confirmation that a system has been assessed against and meets a minimum baseline of security. The certification authority, or the person who will certify a system, is usually the Chief Information Security Officer or Assurance Manager, but it's essentially the person in the organisation who's responsible for security. Accreditation, on the other hand, is the formal acknowledgement and acceptance of risks to the organisation through the use of this system. The accreditation authority can differ. Normally it is the business owner, or essentially the person who's responsible for the system and responsible for when things go wrong, but sometimes higher risk systems need accreditation from people further up in an organisation, such as a deputy chief executive or a chief executive. By a system being certified and accredited, it means that the risks from the system have been assessed and accepted, and it's been authorised to be used in an organisation. I'll be going over a very high-level overview of what this might look like. You don't really need to see the words. I'll be going over them one by one. Each box is essentially an activity. Green activities are inputs to the CNA process. Dark blue are activities that you do during, and light blue or orange are outputs from the CNA process, depending on the result. So firstly, you're looking to do the certification and accreditation of a system. Step one, you need to understand the business context. What does the organization do, and how is this particular system assisting that? What purpose does it fulfill? This can help us understand the impacts if the system could not do what it's meant to do, as well as understanding what's the risk tolerance of the organization for this. Are they willing to accept a lot of risk because it's a very key system that needs doing? Secondly, you need to understand the technical context. Who's involved? How was it built? Any sort of history behind it? And what different technologies were used? Following this, you need to conduct a risk assessment and identify the key risks to the organization through the use of this system. You need to assign ratings to these risks, such as high risk, medium risk, or low risk, depending on how severe the risk actually is. Once you've identified some of the key risks, you need to assign security controls to these risks. When I say security controls, access control, logging, backups, etc. Once you've identified these security controls that need to be applied to the system, you need to understand how you're going to assess them, or what even a good implementation looks like. Following this, you need to conduct the assessment itself. Technical testing is a large part of this assessment sometimes, as it is a form of gaining assurance over a system. More testing is more assurance. If you've had a penetration tester slam a system for 8 weeks, you've got a fairly good idea of whether it can stand up to it. Otherwise, you need to conduct a controls validation audit, where you look at all the different security controls that you've identified in your risk assessment. Once you've established whether the security controls are effective or not effective, this is really the decision point of the certification accreditation process. Have the risks been mitigated to a sufficient level? Have the security controls been implemented effectively? If they have, you need to generate a system security certificate. This is essentially just the document that the certification authority and the accreditation authority will sign to say that they indeed do certify and accredit the system. The outcome of this is that relevant leaders of the organization now have confidence that the system has been assessed for the minimum security baselines, and they know the risks they are accepting through its usage. However, this is not always the case. Sometimes the security controls aren't in place effectively. So what do we do in this case? We need to create a plan for fixing the high impact issues and getting the system to an acceptable state where it can be used by the organization. This can be done through a remediation plan or a security risk management plan. Essentially, we need the delivery teams for the solution or system to have a list of the issues that they need to fix and how they're going to fix this to get it to an acceptable level. So that's the certification accreditation process in a nutshell, but what does this all mean for you? As New Zealand citizens, we want our government to have good assurance over IT, and we want our taxpayer money to be spent effectively on IT systems. If you're an information security professional working in government, these frameworks are mandatory for your organisation to align with, and you should be aware of them. If you work in the government sector in a non-security role, such as a project manager or solution architect, you'll likely be required to contribute to the CNA process, which is either providing context to the assessor, connecting them with stakeholders, or providing evidence of the effective implementation of security controls. If you work in the private sector as an information security professional, this is good guidance on what good assurance looks like that you can leverage in your own organisations. And if you're a supplier into the New Zealand government, you may be required to align with that certification accreditation process, depending on your exact contractual relationship. So all in all, the key takeaway from this talk is that New Zealand government provides guidance on assurance, risk management, and information security, specifically the AOG ICT Operations Assurance Framework, the PSR, the NZISM, and this is a hands-on activity of the certification accreditation process. I've run out of time, but if you do have any questions, I'll be at the Quantum booth in the vendor area afterwards. Feel free to come say hi. Thank you.
Busted.